Have you ever met someone for only a few minutes, only to realize they might change your life forever? Sometimes kindness begins with a simple question. Sometimes one honest answer opens a door that money, power, and success never could. This is the story of a struggling single father who walked into a billionaire CEO's office to repair a broken computer, and walked out carrying a secret that would change both of their lives. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional stories that remind us kindness still exists, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to Heartline Stories, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us keep bringing you stories that touch the heart. Ryan Parker adjusted the worn-out toolbox in his hand as he stepped into the towering glass building in downtown Chicago. The lobby sparkled with polished marble floors, expensive artwork, and people dressed in suits that probably cost more than everything he owned. Ryan looked down at his faded work boots for a moment before walking toward the reception desk. "Computer repair," he said politely. The receptionist checked her screen. "You must be Ryan. The CEO's office. Top floor." Ryan thanked her with a warm smile. Life had not been easy during the last 3 years. Ever since his wife Emma passed away after a sudden illness, every day had become a battle. During the mornings he drove his 8-year-old daughter Lily to school. During the day he repaired computers for a small local company. At night he delivered food to pay rent. He barely slept. Still, no matter how tired he felt, he always smiled for Lily. She was the reason he never gave up. As the elevator climbed toward the executive floor, Ryan remembered Lily's words from breakfast. "Daddy, don't forget to smile today." "I always smile. But today smile extra. Good things happen when people smile." He laughed softly. Children believed in miracles. Adults usually forgot how. The elevator doors opened. The executive floor was silent, elegant, and intimidating. A young assistant greeted him. "Mr. Parker? MS. Victoria Hayes is waiting." Ryan followed her into the largest office he had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Modern paintings decorated the walls. Everything looked perfect, everything except the computer sitting on the CEO's desk. Behind it stood Victoria Hayes. She was one of the youngest CEOs in the country, famous for turning a struggling technology company into a billion-dollar business before turning 40. Ryan had seen her on television many times. In person, she looked confident, but her eyes looked exhausted. "Good morning," Ryan said. She nodded without looking up from a stack of papers. "My computer froze during an important presentation yesterday. IT couldn't solve it. They recommended bringing in an outside specialist. I'll do my best." She stepped aside while answering phone calls one after another. Ryan quietly opened the computer case. He noticed several software problems immediately and nothing serious. As he worked, he couldn't help hearing Victoria's conversations. One meeting cancelled, another investor demanding faster profits, another executive arguing about layoffs. Her voice remained calm, but every call made her shoulders sink a little lower. Nearly an hour later Ryan finally restarted the system. Everything worked perfectly. He checked the files to ensure nothing had been lost. One folder accidentally opened. A single photograph appeared. Ryan instinctively looked away. He respected people's privacy, but before he could close it, Victoria walked back toward the desk. She noticed the picture on the screen. Instead of becoming angry, she simply stared at it. The room grew strangely quiet. The photo showed Victoria sitting on a beach without expensive clothes, without makeup, laughing beside an older woman who looked like her mother. She looked genuinely happy, very different from the serious businesswoman standing in front of him. Victoria sighed. "That's an old picture." Ryan gently reached for the mouse. "I'm sorry. It opened by accident." "I know." She didn't ask him to close it. Instead she kept looking at the smiling woman in the photograph. After several seconds she quietly asked something Ryan never expected. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." She smiled sadly. "Do you think I'm pretty?" Ryan blinked. He wasn't sure he had heard correctly. One of the most successful women in America, someone whose face appeared on magazine covers, was asking an exhausted computer technician whether she was pretty. Ryan realized she wasn't asking about her face, she was asking something much deeper. He thought carefully before answering. She waited. "I think the woman in that picture looks happier than the woman standing in front of me." Silence. Victoria slowly lowered her eyes. No one had spoken to her like that in years. Most people complimented her clothes, her success, her beauty, her wealth. Nobody asked if she was happy. A tear almost escaped her eye, but she quickly looked toward the window. "My mother took that picture 5 years ago." Ryan stayed quiet. My mother used to tell me that success means nothing if you stop recognizing yourself. She laughed bitterly. I thought she was wrong. Ryan gently closed the photo without another word. He finished checking the computer. Everything is fixed. Victoria nodded absent-mindedly. As Ryan packed his tools, he noticed a framed drawing on a nearby shelf. It looked completely different from the expensive artwork decorating the office. It had obviously been drawn by a child. A simple house. A bright yellow sun. Two stick figures holding hands. On the back someone had written, "For Aunt Victoria. Love, Sophie." Ryan smiled. My daughter draws pictures like that. Victoria's expression softened for the first time. My niece made it. You should keep it where you can see it every day. I do. Ryan picked up his toolbox. Well. Thank you for trusting me with your computer. Before leaving, he turned around. And for what it's worth, Victoria looked up. I don't think people remember someone because they're beautiful. She waited quietly. They remember how safe they felt around them. For the first time that morning, Victoria genuinely smiled. Thank you, Ryan. He nodded politely and walked toward the door. He never imagined those few words would echo in Victoria's mind for the rest of the day, but just as Ryan stepped into the hallway, he heard raised voices coming from the conference room. Several board members were arguing loudly. The company is losing millions. We need someone to blame. Fire half the support department. Ryan paused, then he heard Victoria's firm voice. No. The room exploded into even louder arguments. Ryan quietly walked away, believing it was none of his business. He took the elevator downstairs and headed home. That evening Lily ran into his arms. How was your day? Ryan smiled. I fixed a computer. Only a computer? He laughed. Maybe. I also helped someone a little. Lily grinned. I told you. Good things happen when people smile. Ryan kissed her forehead. Neither of them knew that, at that exact moment, Victoria Hayes was sitting alone in her office, looking once again at that old photograph, thinking not about billion-dollar deals, but about the single dad who had answered her question with complete honesty. Then her phone rang. After listening for only a few seconds, her face turned completely pale. The caller whispered words that would change everything. Miss Hayes, there's something you need to know about Ryan Parker. Victoria gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean there's something I need to know about Ryan Parker? Her head of security answered carefully. Ma'am, I'm not saying he did anything wrong. But while reviewing today's visitor log, I recognized his name. Years ago, Ryan Parker designed a security program that our company still uses. Victoria frowned. That can't be right. He repairs computers for a small local business. I thought the same thing. But I checked twice. Before his wife became sick, he worked for one of the best cybersecurity firms in the country. After the call ended, Victoria remained frozen. She looked toward the office door where Ryan had stood only an hour earlier. Why would someone with that background be struggling to survive? She opened her laptop and searched his name. There it was. Several old articles described Ryan as a brilliant software engineer with a bright future. Then, suddenly, nothing. No interviews. No awards. No promotions. It was as if he had disappeared from the professional world overnight. Victoria whispered to herself, "What happened to you?" Across town, Ryan was helping Lily finish her homework at their tiny kitchen table. Daddy, Lily asked, if someone is rich but lonely, are they really rich? Ryan smiled softly. That depends on what they treasure. What do you treasure? You. Lily wrapped her arms around him. And pancakes. Ryan laughed. Yes, and pancakes. For a few moments, their little apartment felt warmer than any mansion. The next morning Ryan returned to work as usual. His manager, Carl, called him into the office. Ryan, I've got another service request. Ryan nodded. Where to? Carl slid a printed work order across the desk. Ryan looked at the address. It was Victoria Hayes Company. She's asking for me again? Carl shrugged. She specifically requested you. Ryan felt surprised but agreed. An hour later he stepped back into the familiar skyscraper. This time the receptionist smiled warmly. Welcome back, Mr. Parker. Even the assistant seemed friendlier. Victoria was standing by the window when he entered. Good morning. Morning, Ryan replied. Is something wrong with the computer again? She smiled. No. Ryan looked confused. Then, why am I here? Victoria took a deep breath. I lied. Ryan raised an eyebrow. I asked you to come because I wanted to thank you. For fixing your computer? For reminding me who I used to be. Ryan didn't know what to say. She continued. Yesterday, after you left, I canceled the layoffs. Ryan blinked. You did? I realized I was making decisions based on fear instead of people. Ryan smiled. I'm glad. But that isn't the only reason I called. She placed a folder on the desk. I learned about your past. Ryan's smile faded. He remained silent. You were one of the best engineers in your field. That was a long time ago. What happened? Ryan stared out the window. My wife got sick. Victoria quietly listened. The treatments were expensive. I sold my car, then my house, then everything else. He swallowed hard. When she passed away, Lily only had me. So you left your career? She needed a father more than the world needed another engineer. Victoria felt her throat tighten. How long has it been? 3 years. And no company gave you another chance? Ryan smiled sadly. When employers hear you've been away that long, they assume you've forgotten everything. They're wrong. I stopped trying to convince them. Silence filled the office. Finally Victoria spoke. Ryan. I have an offer. He looked at her. I want you to lead our cybersecurity department. Ryan almost laughed. You barely know me. I know enough. You've seen one repaired computer. I've seen something much more valuable. What? Character. Ryan lowered his eyes. I appreciate that, but I can't. Victoria looked surprised. Why not? My daughter finishes school at 3 every afternoon. So? I've promised her I'll always be there. She already lost her mother. I won't let her lose her father to work. Victoria understood immediately. She remembered all the birthdays, holidays and family dinners she had missed while chasing success. She slowly closed the folder. I respect that. Ryan stood. Thank you anyway. As he picked up his toolbox, Victoria asked one last question. What if there were another way? Ryan paused. What do you mean? A schedule built around your daughter. He turned back. You'd do that? For the right person, yes. Ryan hesitated. For the first time in years? Hope quietly knocked on the door of his heart. Before he could answer, Victoria's assistant rushed into the office without knocking. Ms. Hayes. Victoria frowned. What is it? The board members have called an emergency meeting. Now. They've already started. Victoria walked quickly toward the conference room. Ryan followed a few steps behind before stopping in the hallway. The conference room doors were slightly open. Inside, one board member slammed a file onto the table. We've reviewed your latest decisions. Another added coldly. You canceled the layoffs without approval. A third spoke even louder. And now we've learned you're planning to hire an unknown computer technician into senior management. Victoria stood tall. His name is Ryan Parker. We don't care who he is. He deserves the opportunity. One executive laughed. A broke repairman doesn't belong in the executive offices. Ryan quietly turned away before hearing the rest. He had heard words like that before. They still hurt. He pressed the elevator button, determined to leave before anyone saw him. Just as the elevator doors opened, Victoria's voice echoed down the hallway. If you judge people by their bank account instead of their character, then you've already forgotten what kind of company we're supposed to be. Ryan looked back one last time. The boardroom had fallen completely silent. He didn't know what would happen next. But deep inside, he knew this story was far from over.